celebrating our 20th season. From the college by the lake, meeting the personalities and discussing the issues that affect all of Coeur d'Alene and the inland Northwest. We are the North Idaho College Public Forum. And now, here's your host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart.
One of the very important issues that faces cities and counties all over the United States today is the issue of solid waste, and in relation to that, hazardous waste. One possible solution, or certainly it's a partial solution, is to deal with recycling. That issue, of course, is very important to Spokane County and Kootenai County, where we are located, as we are very fastly growing areas. And we're very fortunate to have on our program today two guests to discuss this subject as it relates to our locality, but certainly those issues would be relevant to other communities that are watching this program. I first of all welcome Paul Jacobson to our program. He is the public relations person and also environmental technician for Kootenai County, where Coeur d'Alene is located. Paul, welcome to our program, and we've heard you already today on campus, and we know you have some very important information for our citizenry.
Thank you, Tony.
And I'm equally happy to have on the program today Lange Steve, who is Director of Auxiliary Services at North Idaho College, and Lange's working closely with Paul for North Idaho College to become a partner in this whole issue of recycling and how we can conserve the resources that we have. Lange, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And I'm very pleased to have two panel members today to join with me in questioning our guests on this important subject. First, to my immediate left is Steve Schenck, who is Dean of College Relations and Development at North Idaho College, and next to him is our president of our institution, Dr. C. Robert Bennett. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Tony.
And I will ask Steve Schenck to commence the questioning.
Thank you, Tony. Paul and Lange, maybe we could begin by having each of you tell us in a little bit more detail what your jobs involve.
With me, I'm the public relations, which involves a lot of education for the public on the programs that we have going out at Kootenai County, and also I'm the environmental technician. And that's a lot of hats right there. I'm responsible for the recycling. I chair the recycling advisory committee that Kootenai County has. I also am the household hazardous waste manager, and I also do groundwater, surface water sampling, and I'm involved in the construction, operation, and maintenance of the landfill gas collection systems.
Lange?
Steve, up in about a year ago, I had nothing to do with recycling whatsoever, but by virtue of the fact that the Associated Students started a campaign in the Student Union building itself for and towards a recycling program, and since that's one of my areas of responsibility here on campus, that's kind of come to rest on my desk, and we're going to try to continue and develop that using the Student Union as a center or a base to troubleshoot our ideas, and we have for about the last year. I think we've got it down to a somewhat reasonable set of organization to expand that onto the campus-wide in coordination with the Kootenai County programs that are coming up.
Paul, I'm glad to hear that it's students at North Idaho College that are at least one of the groups that are interested in recycling. Where is the pressure coming from in your job, or the incentive, if pressure is the wrong word? What groups are out there saying we've got to do more to control the solid waste problem in our area?
Mostly it's the citizens. The citizens of Kootenai County, through the education process, are becoming very aware of the problems that we have with solid waste. And a lot of the information that we pass out is directed toward those citizens, and a lot of our input comes from those citizens. We're also working under the federal regulations, which are called RCRA, Subtitle D, and they are the federal regulations dealing with solid waste. And they mandate how we will run our landfill, and in order to run our landfill properly, we need to have programs like household hazardous waste collection, waste oil collection, and recycling.
Dr. Bennett.
Thank you. I was real interested in your comments earlier today when you met with the students and some of the other people in the community and talked about what you were doing. And you gave a real interesting statistic with respect to the amount of solid waste per person in Kootenai County that is used or is trashed or has to be absorbed. It was like 5.4 pounds per person per day. Question I have is this. You mentioned that the local citizen is concerned about what we do with our waste. Where's industry in this whole situation? Are they working with you? Do they have people in the respective industries that are also being responsible, because you pointed out in your comment that part of the reason for the heavy waste is because of the kinds of industry we have in this area.
The industry and the business segment of Kootenai County is getting extremely involved in the recycling end of this. We've had, I have a lot of contact with some of the recyclers here in town, people that actually own a recycling business. And a lot of the businesses have set up programs with the recycler to come pick up the material that they have. So they're actually trying to become part of the solution.
I think it's very important that the citizens there understand that businesses want to be good citizens too. And if they're contributing to this waste problem, they, I think, do feel some obligation or responsibility for helping reconcile it.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Something that we do need to look at with, from my point of view, in the position I'm in, businesses are in kind of a unique position in that 40% of the trash that goes into a landfill is in paper. And one of the main things that businesses have are files and a lot of paper
Like
waste.
the college.
Like the college. So it's important that they understand and realize that just even a minor program such as recycling the paper makes a big difference in the end product of what we have.
Thank you.
Paul, I'd like to follow up on Dr. Bennett's question. When you spoke today, again, you had a lot of statistics, and as he indicated, depending on which time period you look at, one statistic you gave is that actually 5.95 pounds per person per day goes into the Kootenai County landfill, whereas the national average is 4 pounds per person per day. You also gave a statistic indicating that last year we had 76,000 tons of trash in Kootenai County. You magnify that across the country. We hear in New York, for example, that there's a mountain from one of their landfills. They've actually literally built a mountain. That won't go on and on without some addressing issue on recycling. So my very involved question has to do with, would you identify, number one, what is the most hazardous materials that are going into landfills that you can't just cover that over later and say, now we can forget it because of the escaping gases and so forth. So, and I'll have a follow-up question, but first, what are the things that not only in our landfill but others that shouldn't be going in for health purposes?
For health purposes, especially since we're over a sole source aquifer that provides drinking water for a majority of the 350,000 people in North Idaho and Spokane Valley. The things that really top the list are waste motor oil because of the quantities that are dumped. And
can I interrupt to say,
yes.
You had a really interesting statistic about how if you give that just a certain amount of motor oil, what it does to how many gallons of water.
Yeah.
1 quart of motor oil spoils the taste of 250,000 gallons of drinking water.
It's a remarkable figure.
It really is remarkable. You know, a gallon spoils the taste of 1 million gallons of water. And we start looking at the number of people that ground up their oil. 60% of the people that change their, 60% of the oil changes that are done nationwide are done by do-it-yourselfers. And so 60% of that oil has to go somewhere. And in the commercial businesses, that oil is usually recycled. But the do-it-yourselfer either throws it in the garbage, which goes into a landfill, or dumps it on their roadway, or dumps it in a creek or a stream.
Because of lack of time, we won't go into some of the others because I don't want to take too much from the panel, but in addition to the oil, what are the other things going in, like paints and...
Paints and household cleaners and pesticides and herbicides.
How about batteries? And
Car batteries and flashlight batteries are also the major contributors.
okay, then my follow-up question is, you've got some exciting things that you're putting in place of how to deal with batteries and paint and so forth. You talked about some phases of goals of Kootenai County. Would you, I'm particularly wanting to get to our viewers who would like to join you in dealing with this problem.
Okay, we have a 3-phase approach to recycling in Kootenai County, and the first phase is already implemented out at the Ramsey Road Transfer Station. And we provided a household hazardous waste collection facility, a used motor oil collection facility, a car and flashlight battery collection facility, and we also have recycling available for newspapers, aluminum cans, metals, etc.
You started this back in November, did you not? And,
Back in November.
and it's really working, isn't it?
It's working very well. Our first month we recycled about 49 tons of material, And last month we recycled 81 tons of material. So the population is really coming on strong. They're really involved in this program. And the second phase of our program is through education, and it's a school drop-off recycling program where we hope to have recycling bins placed at all schools throughout Kootenai County, where the community as well as people that come to the school can drop off their recyclables in those bins. NIC, Lanny and I have been talking about this for quite some time, and NIC is pretty well involved in this program. They seem to stand behind it very well, and I think it's going to work very well with them. And then the third phase to our approach is the recycling program called Curbside, where everybody can put their recyclables into a container, set it at their curbside, and a vehicle will come around and pick it up. We're about a year, maybe a little farther, away from having the curbside program in place.
Thank you. Steve Shink.
Lanny, just how trashy is your operation over at the... And I don't know that you keep accurate figures, but you feed a lot of students.
Well,
what kind of a problem does it present for you to handle the waste that you produce in your job?
I think one of the things we talked about earlier this morning was there's two ways to approach recycling. One is a source reduction. If you don't have it to recycle to begin with, then you don't have to worry about it. We get into a problem there of maintaining clean dishes and that sort of thing in the food service area, so then you're, what do you do with the wastewater that comes off of there? So in either case, you've got a waste problem. We currently have some cup promos, and we'll be working with a hot-cold cup again next winter. Pack it and fill it as opposed to using additional paper products or whatever that we provide there. The other thing is, with the student body, they funded some containers last fall to put in the student union. And what we do is we have students who work for us on a part-time basis collecting those recyclable materials, which is primarily aluminum, glass, and newspaper. And those get collected on a daily basis and taken to a depository within the building, and then they get hauled out about once a semester or twice a semester. Last January we hauled out about a ton worth of material that had collected over the previous semester. As far as dollar value, that's minimal. I think we had a $21 credit to our name out of the recycling center. But the fact is, it was a ton of garbage that did not, or a ton of trash, and it's solid waste that did not go into the landfill. And I think that's the area that we're trying to key in on and expand that across campus. If one facility can offer up a couple of tons a year of solid waste, what can 8 or 10 facilities across campus do? So I think we're looking at the magnitude of, we're taking a look at a small portion of what NIC currently does, is to, with the help with the Dropbox program that Paul is working on in Kootenai County, that we can have down the road a year a fairly comprehensive recycling program.
I've got a question for both of you, really. Nobody likes to waste food, certainly, but we're all guilty of it. And we have a garbage disposal at our home. Most homes do. For you, Lanny, does the college grind up its leftover foods that's grindable and down the drain it goes? And Paul, a follow-up, is that what we should be doing with it, or is it more environmentally responsible to package that stuff up and send it to the dump? I mean, assuming we're not composting, which would probably be the best of all. First, Lanny,
Yes, we do have, and I'm afraid to say this, but we have a number of wasteful customers who do not eat what they purchase, and that's unfortunate. And I'm not sure of a way to control it outside of going back to the old standard that our mothers and grandmothers have set aside for us, that if you don't clean your plate up, there's no dessert. It's pretty basic stuff. But I think above and beyond that, if we can figure out some way to weigh that and maybe put a dollar value on it, we talked about dollars this morning, financial aspect of recycling. If we can make people aware of the dollar values that are getting wasted, I think that brings home some sort of significance to the individual, saying, this is money out of my pocket that I don't need to throw away. So that would help it. We do dispose of all of our garbage through a disposal unit now that goes through the sewer system, and from there.
From your perspective, Paul, is that the right way? Is that what you'd like to see people do?
It's a good question. I've not really given much thought to the problem of waste food. Personally, anything that can be composted should be composted. The point being made of, if you don't have it to throw away, then you don't have to worry about it, so clean your plate is really the way it should be handled, in my opinion. And I really don't have any statistics or any knowledge of what goes on at a wastewater treatment plant, so I don't know if that gives any problem to them with the food going down the drain.
Dr. Bennett.
You also mentioned in your comments today, Paul, that as we begin to separate solid waste, bottles from paper, from something else, from batteries and so on, that you're constantly looking in the industry for people to use that product in some other way. I thought it was interesting that a young person said, I'm glad now that the college is finally focusing on this, we need to do it. But it's one thing to be interested and thinking that it's important to do. It's another thing to understand that industry, there has to be an industry out there to take that and then reuse it. Could you comment a little bit in terms of what is happening within the industries, in terms of how they're using these old products and putting them back into some kind of a good use for humanity or for the area?
We're pretty proud of what's going on in the Idaho State Legislature. One of our main problems in a landfill, that it makes up about 10% of the trash problem, is glass. And Idaho just passed a bill recently that mandates that Idaho State Department of Transportation use 300,000 tons of crushed glass in their road base every year. So that's one good way to reuse this glass instead of putting it into the landfill. Other things that, it's all a market study is what it is. And if there isn't a market for the material, you can't recycle it in the area. And a lot of what's happening is a lot of the plastics, like plastic milk jugs and the plastic pop bottles, are being made into insulations. They're being made into interiors of fabric such as coats. And a lot of the aluminum cans, a lot of the non-ferrous type metals, aluminum, brass, copper, like your aluminum screen doors, are going back in and they're being remade into new products. So everything is really, it comes back to that market value. If there's not a market in the area, then you don't have a way to dispose of the problem, or of the product. So,
if I could just follow up with that for a minute, you also mentioned that there was a real new kind of career opening for people who would see the environment as not something that has to be taken care of. That's of course important, but that there's an opportunity to, if they're trained properly, to find a good job working in that area in the future. Would you comment on that a little bit?
The solid waste industry has opened up a myriad of possibilities to anyone. If you're interested in groundwater, surface water monitoring, sampling, testing, that all needs to be done around a landfill. Also, there's the collection and use of landfill gas. There's recycling coordination that needs to be done, household hazardous waste management, and also there's a lack of professionals in the field to handle these jobs. So the opportunities for students are just wide open right now.
It's good to know.
I have a question for both persons too. First of all, Lanny, I was very pleased to hear you say today too that we have some long-range plans, and we have viewers from the Kootenai County area that are watching this program. Would you take a moment to tell them what our long-range plan is, that we'll even become it's under my understanding, a site where off-campus people can use our facility here for recycling?
Well, and that's why we've kind of held off on initiating anything here at NIC and working with Kootenai County, that we do work together. I think that that's the important thing, that we do have a coordinated effort. In talking with Paul, he talked about the Dropbox program, and that's so that it is a community drive-by Dropbox. It would be open for the community as well as for the college itself. The idea is to have some sort of recycling drop-off, someone who's not necessarily into recycling for dollars and cents, but has recyclable materials that they do want to deposit and get rid of. Without the curbside service at this point in time, that would offer the opportunity to do so.
Lanny, what are some of the things that they could deposit at this center when it's open?
Glass, clear glass, aluminum, paper, newspaper are going to be the major. I would like to expand that into tin cans, cardboard, those types of items, plastic pop bottles, milk cartons and that sort of thing. Whatever we can recycle here within the Coeur d'Alene area that there's a market for, that we can, even if there's not a dollar value involved in it, if we can pass that on, that we would provide these centers here. They would be available for people in the community driving through. We're fairly convenient, easy to get to and off of on campus, as well as staff members who might have a stack of newspapers at home that they want to bring on to, or they want to get rid of, get it out of their way. And as opposed to throwing it in the garbage, you could bring it and drop it in the box in the morning.
Paul, I hear Lanny saying here on this point too that in the long run there is saving money though, because the landfill doesn't fill up as fast, so the taxpayers don't have to look for a new land site, and then the protection of the water and all could have all to do with not only quality of life but preventing diseases.
Exactly. The whole point to our even really getting into the recycling and the household hazardous waste management is a matter of environmental protection, and also we look at what do the citizens and taxpayers of Kootenai County want, and they don't want to pay the exorbitant amount of money to take care of their trash. So by recycling, that brings into play the term avoided costs. Down the road, they don't have to pay these costs. Right now, in the current landfill, right now we're still filling final contours for closure of the Ramsey Road landfill. But we've got the figures figured out for Fighting Creek landfill, and when we go out there, every cubic yard of recyclable material that we pull out of the waste stream will save $15 worth of space in that landfill. And that's quite a bit. Last month we pulled out about 81 tons of recyclable material, and that would equate to somewhere in the range of about 100 cubic yards of material.
That's significant. Another thing you said today that really excited me, I'd read a lot of reports for our work in state and local government in our course this year, that a lot of landfills, the great problem is they've covered them over and built a golf course, whatever, and then the gases escape and they have to go back in. It's my understanding that you're going to work on a system to close our old system, and now there's a method and procedure where you don't have to worry about that. Would you take our viewers through that new technology?
What we do on a new landfill is we put a 30 to 60 mil PVC or high-density plastic liner over the top of the landfill. This keeps more water from leaching into the garbage and causing more problems with the groundwater system. Then we cover that up with several different layers of protective soil, and finally a layer of topsoil. And once we get to the topsoil stage, we'll have gone in and put in a landfill gas collection system so that we can pull all the methane gas out of that landfill and use it. Either what we're doing out at the transfer station is we're going to heat our transfer station by burning the landfill gas.
That's wonderful.
And it's a pretty good program.
And also, would you tell viewers, because I'm trying to interest other communities in what you're doing, tell us some of the plans the city has in the county for the old landfill, now that you can do that safely. What are they going to put out there?
Right now we have kind of a split landfill out at Ramsey Road. On the west side of Ramsey Road is the old landfill, and on the east side is the new part of the landfill. We're closing the east side of the landfill. But on the west side, all the garbage has been in place long enough that we feel most of the decomposition has taken place, so it's not going to settle too much more. And Kootenai County and the city of Coeur d'Alene are in the process of working on a plan to turn that into a park with a couple of softball diamonds, a soccer field. There will be, a basketball court, horseshoe pitching area.
And don't forget tennis courts.
Tennis courts, volleyball court, picnic area, and an open area for like playing frisbee. And then when we get to final closure over the east side of Ramsey Road, some of the things that we've been looking at are possibly like closing that so that it's kind of a hill. So we can put a jogging track around it and maybe a cross-country ski track, maybe put in an area for sledding for the kids, and an open area for just playing.
Steve Sheen.
Paul, nationally I've read recently that tires are a serious problem. In fact, I think a lot of landfills aren't even taking tires anymore, and I've heard that some tire dealers will charge you less for new tires if they don't have to take your old ones. Is that a problem in Kootenai County, and do you still take tires at the landfill?
Tires are a major problem in Kootenai County. It's figured that there's about 105,000 tires thrown away per year in Kootenai County. And The problem with tires are they float to the surface of the landfill. They can rupture your liner. They can cause voids in your garbage that can then trap air. A lot of major problems that they cause. Right now, Kootenai County is still taking tires, but we're trying to deal with them effectively. We've been working with several different places. That one place we were working with makes posts out of old tires. We're also looking at the possibility of getting a tire shredder, and if we get the tire shredder, then we can use that for a road-based material of daily cover type material. Idaho State Legislature has passed a law that $1 will be collected for every tire that is sold. And so that is going into a general fund, and we're kind of waiting till we see what they're going to do with all of those dollars that are being collected and see if we can possibly get a grant or something to help finance the tire shredder. Tire shredders are not cheap. A very inexpensive one is $160,000. And a decent heavy-duty one is around $350,000.
Those are big figures.
Dr. Bennett.
You know, as I listen to you talk and as I've listened to the students talk, I think I understand this is an extremely important issue for this country and for all countries. And yet, for some reason, emotionally, we haven't caught up with it. In other words, it doesn't seem so important to us that a lot of people want to give attention to it on a daily basis. The public service announcements and so forth that are available, have we utilized those well with respect to making sure that people understand how important this is to their everyday life?
Nationally, I believe that the public service announcement system is starting to be used. In the past, I don't feel that it's been used to its full potential. I feel that education is the key, and I feel that education of the youth is the absolute key. We need to start teaching the youngsters. And part of what we've been doing is we've been really keying in on those kindergarten through 5th graders. And those kids, I'll tell you, I've heard a lot of bad about the kids from other people saying, oh, the new generation, but these kids are bright. And I've been working with them a lot, and it's a lot of fun, and they pick this stuff right up, and then they start working with the parents. And I honestly feel that's where the best education comes from. And I think that education of the kids, working on their parents, coupled with, as you said, the public service type announcements, the media, I think it's making a big difference.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
This is a convenient point to interrupt. We're out of time. I want to thank both our guests for their very enlightening information and the panel for their enlightening questions. And I know our viewers have found this very informative, and it's encouraging that we have this new technology and that people are beginning to address a very serious problem in our society. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you found this program most informative, and I invite you to be with us again next week at the same time when we shall discuss what we believe to be an important issue. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
The North Idaho College Public Forum was videotaped live from the studios of Telemedia Services on the campus of North Idaho College for viewing at this more appropriate time. We invite you to join us again next week for another all-new edition of the North Idaho College Public Forum on this public television station.